Welcome back. Chapter 38. Ruth. The sun feels hotter now that it is directly overhead. It's almost noon and Catherine is somewhere inside Sunrise rustling up a bite for us to eat. Mr. Damon is back in the memory wing where residents are being served lunch. Everyone who was outside earlier has escaped into the comfort of air conditioning. Surely by now James has been arrested. When I called 911 at 5 minutes to 9 from my burner phone, I told the operator I just escaped convict James Bate walking in the field behind Oak Hill High, carrying something that looks like a black wig. The operator asked if he was armed, and I said I don't know. I hung up when she asked for my name. I would have loved to have seen James being arrested with my own eyes, but it was too dangerous for me to be anywhere near that field. Girl, he ain't arrested. He's smarter than that. 24 years has taught him. Now I reach for my iPhone and refresh my Google search on James. There is no update. Surprise. But that's probably because the media hasn't gotten a hold of the story of his capture yet. Tension roils my body, so I force myself to lean back against the wooden bench I shared with Mr. Damon and think about something pleasant. What comes to mind is an image of my father laughing as he chased after the kite we flew on that long ago summer day. When I was with Mr. Damon, it felt as if my dad was sending love across space and time, channeling it through a stranger, surrounding me with it during one of my darkest days. Okay, he ain't her daddy. This has happened before, such as on the night when the trucker with a sleepy old Chihuahua let me ride in his cab. As we drove farther away from everything and everyone I knew, a panic attack tore through me. At the precise moment I began to hyperventilate, the trucker reached for the radio knob, and a song my father used to sing to us, Cat Stevens' Wild World, came across the radio. It soothed me. There was another time when Catherine was 4 years old, a few nights before Christmas on a bitterly cold evening. I had no money to buy food for us, let alone presents for my little girl. I was desperate enough to go into a restaurant that set down free bread baskets on the table, hoping to fill our tummies and flee. The restaurant was busy that night, but the hot bread still arrived via a bus boy a moment after the waiter handed me an adult menu and Catherine a kiddie one. I set the menus on the table and quickly grabbed the basket and buttered the thick slice of bread for Catherine. Then I shoved a piece into my mouth and washed it down with ice water. I tried to get us out of there before the waiter approached to take an order, but I was too slow. The waiter caught me just as I was standing up and walking around the table to grab Catherine. He knew exactly what we were doing. We hadn't even taken off our coats. Even though it wasn't a fancy place, I guess we looked like we didn't belong. Catherine was in a jacket 2 sizes too big for her because it was a hand-me-down I'd gotten from a former neighbor, and my outfit was a little ragged. The waiter pointed towards the door and told us to get out as my cheeks flushed hot with shame. But we only taken a few steps when a man at the next table drew himself up. His black mustache matched his glossy hair, and his accent reminded me of my father. "These ladies are my guests," the man told the waiter. He wasn't wearing expensive clothes, and he didn't have a commanding voice, but something in his tone left no room for argument. The man with the mustache came over to our table and pulled out Catherine's chair, treating her like she was somebody important. She sat back down, and so did I. "Order anything you wish," the man said before he returned to his seat. I got Catherine chicken tenders with a side of green beans and another of roasted potato wedges with extra ketchup and a glass of apple juice. Trying to get as much nutrition into her as possible. I ordered minestrone soup for myself because I didn't want the man to think I was trying to take advantage of him. The whole time we were eating the hot, delicious food, I kept ducking my head and pretending to wipe my mouth, hoping no one could tell I was really wiping my tears. The stranger stood to leave before we finished, and when he passed our table, he put down $40, enough to cover our meal with some left over to buy food for the next few days. When I saw all that money, I wanted to drop my head onto the table and sob. I walked by that restaurant many times afterwards, but I never saw that man again. A sharp cry jars me from my reverie, making me look up. A crow is sitting on a nearby branch, staring at me and cawing. Some people believe crows are bad omens, but I refuse to buy into that. Crows are intelligent, playful creatures who get a bad rep. Still, as another one's shrill cry cuts through the air, goosebumps rises on my skin. By now, James is sitting in a jail cell with his hands cuffed, I promised myself, which also means that by now he realizes how completely I've betrayed him. I force my mind away from the horrifying thought. Because Catherine hasn't returned with our food yet, I pull out my journal and a pen. There's a particular entry I want to write down, one that reminds me of my father's love. For one amazing evening when you were 2.5 years old, we were wildly rich. It was one of the best and most terrifying nights of my life. We'd just been evicted from the small room I'd rented in a rundown townhouse that was owned by another single mother. I didn't blame her. Even though the rent was cheap, I couldn't keep up with it. I already had to move twice by that point, and I burned through several jobs. First as a nanny for a little boy. I got fired when the parents decided they didn't like me bringing you along after all. Then as an overnight front desk clerk at a cheap hotel. Even though you quietly slept on the floor beneath my desk, cozily rolled up in a blanket, my manager came by unexpectedly once and saw you, and that was it. The single mom wanted to help me, but she had bills of her own to pay. We both had tears in our eyes when she told me I needed to move out. Since I rented the room furnished, I didn't have much to take. My gray duffel bag with my clothes and toiletries, and a backpack filled with your clothes and supplies. I didn't have a car or any friends whose couch we could crash on until I got myself together, so I went back to Target. You were a very quiet kid. I wasn't too worried you'd cry when the lights turned off, but I bought insurance, one of those ring pops that are shaped like pacifiers. You never tasted candy before, and the moment I popped it into your mouth, your eyes lit up. I followed my old routine, waiting until a minute or two before closing time to climb into the circular rack with you in my arms. I whispered into your ear, telling you the lights were going to turn off, but that Mama would keep you safe. You looked up at me with your round blue eyes, your mouth working that cherry ring pop like you were scared someone was going to take it away before you could finish it. 30 minutes later, we were climbing out of the clothes rack. We had the whole store to ourselves. I wanted to make it fun for you, a kind of adventure. So the first thing we did after getting a flashlight was grab a red plastic shopping basket and wander through the aisles, choosing anything we wanted for a picnic. I picked fruit roll-ups and pretzels and lemonade juice boxes. You added a packet of Oreos. There was a little table and chair set up in the kids section, so we sat there and ate until we were full. Then the real fun began. We walked through the clothing section, picking things we wanted to try on. You looked so cute in everything that I wanted to get it all for you. But in the end, we settled on a tiny red corridor pants with a soft cream colored shirt and a little sneaker with Velcro instead of laces. I got new jeans and a hoodie, and we both put on clean socks and underwear. I saved the best for last. We went to the toy section next. Oh, Catherine, the look on your face when I told you that you could pick any toy you wanted. It was as if you couldn't quite believe it, as if nothing this good had ever happened to you before. You walked up and down the aisles for what felt like an hour and staring at different items as I shone the flashlight on them. A doll with long red hair, a set of mini pots and pans with plastic food, puzzles and marble mazes and brightly colored blocks. You finally chose a soft, stuffed brown and white puppy with floppy ears. It was easy to cut away the packaging and security tag. The scissors were still available in the office supply section. Next, I picked up some chunky Sandra Boynton books and we settled into the big beanbag chair together. I read to you until you fell asleep, your warm body nestled next to mine. I meant to carry you back to our hiding spot, but my eyes were so heavy and we were so cozy. I shut them just for a moment. Heavy footsteps woke me. I opened my eyes and a sharp light blinded me. I winced as I strained to see what was happening. The overhead lights were on in the store and someone was walking towards us. Sheer panic turned my legs to liquid. I wrapped my arms around you more tightly, trying to sink deeper into the beanbag chair. A tall shape loomed over us. We were completely helpless. Terror paralyzed me. I couldn't even cry out. A man in blue coveralls was staring down at us. I croaked out the words, "Please." The man kept looking at us, not saying anything. I thought he must have broken in too. Maybe he was planning to rob the place. He pressed his index finger to his lips. I nodded vigorously, trying to convey that we'd be quiet, that we'd never say a word. I didn't care if he stole everything in the store and both of our bags with all of our belongings. As long as he didn't hurt us, nothing else mattered. Then I heard more voices. I could tell they belonged to another man and a woman. My eyes had adjusted by now. I could see a cleaning cart next to the man. He was young, probably just a few years older than me. He was just trying to make a living. I exhaled and my body relaxed a fraction. But we still weren't safe. If this man called the police, I could be arrested and you could be taken from me. And that would only be the beginning of it. The police might be able to learn my real identity. I counted on everything in Target staying the same. I didn't realize the cleaning crew had switched hours from early morning to late at night. I made a terrible mistake. The man in the coveralls began to gesture frantically. It took me a beat to understand he wanted me to get up to follow him. I climbed out of the beanbag chair with you still sleeping in my arms. The puppy you named Brownie fell to the floor. The man scooped up the stuffed animal and rushed towards a corner of the store where the fitting rooms were located. He used the key on his chain to unlock one of them and gestured for us to get inside. I could hear a woman calling for him in the background. The man closed the door and locked us safely inside until the end of the shift. The woman called his name again and he replied, "Estorque," which means "I'm here." I sat on the floor of the dressing room, you still asleep in my arms, unable to believe my ears. The name of the cleaner, the one I heard the woman calling out, was very familiar to me. Mateo. It was also my father's name. It felt like another sign that my dad was somehow still protecting me. I closed the journal and looked toward the front door of Sunrise. Catherine is coming out, holding a cardboard tray with 2 white styrofoam cups nestled in its holder, and in her other hand, a brown paper bag. I checked my phone again. A police reporter should hear the news about James' capture soon. The cops won't want to keep this quiet. They'll be proud of the arrest. Any moment now, I'll be able to breathe easy. But there's no update on my phone. Catherine offers me the tray and I pull out a cup of coffee, gratefully breathing in the rich aroma. All that's left to do is wait. That's the end of chapter 38. Okay. Is that the last entry in her journal? It should be, because I get it. Let me stop. Hopefully it's the last entry of the journal. I was kind of worried there for a minute because when she said that Catherine wasn't back, I almost thought that James had taken her. And she's back. So now what? I'm going to have to see you in chapter 39. Bye.